Gopi Jana Ballava Giribharadhari Yashodanandan Raja Janaranjana Yashodanandan Raja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Prabhupada 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 Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jai Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Tadasasi Samad. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. ISKCON's founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki, Shri Shri Radha Radhanath Ki, Shri Giri Govardhan Ki, Shri Caitanya Mahaprabhu Ki, Sankirtan Yagya Ki, Gaur Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 3. Talks between Lord Shiva and Sati. Text 1. Maitreya Uvacha Sada Vidvishator Evam Kalo Vai Driyamanayo Jamato Shwashurasyapi Sumahan Atichakrame Maitreya Uvacha Sadavid Vishator Evam Kalavidriyamanayo Jamato Shwashurasyapi Sumahanati Chakrame Maitreya Sadavid Vishator Evam Kalavidriyamanayo Jamato Shwashurasyapi Sumahan Apichakrame Maitreya Sadavid Vishator Evam Kalavidriyamanayo Jamato Shwashurasyapi Sumahanati Chakrame Jamatu Shwashurasyapi Sumahanati Chakrame Acharavacha David Vishatorevam Kalavidriyamanayo Jamatu Shwashurasyapi Adi Chakrame Evam Kalavidriyamanayo Jamatu Shwashurasyapi Sumahanati Chakrame Acharavacha Vidvishatorevam Kalavidriyamanayo Jamatu Shwashurasyapi Sumahanati Chakrame Acharavacha Dadvidvishatorevam Kalavidriyamanayo Jamatu Shwashurasyapi Sumahanati Chakrame Acharavacha Vidvishatorevam Yamanayo Jamatu Shwashurasyapi Anati Chakrame. Ladies, Charavacha Sadavid Vishatorevam Kalavidriyamanayo Jamatu Shwashurasyapi Mahanati Chakrame Maitreya said, Sada constantly, vidvishato, the tension, evam, in this manner, kala, time, vai, certainly, driyamanayo, continued to bear, jamato, of the son-in-law, shwashurasya, of the father-in-law, api, even, sumahan, a very great, adichakrame, past, translation. Maitreya continued, in this manner the tension between the father-in-law and son-in-law, Daksha and Lord Shiva, continued for a considerably long period. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The previous chapter has already explained that Vidura questioned the sage Maitreya as to the cause of the misunderstanding between Lord Shiva and Daksha. Another question is why the strife between Daksha and his son-in-law caused Sati to destroy her body. The chief reason for Sati's giving up her body was that her father, Daksha, began another sacrificial performance to which Lord Shiva was not invited at all. Generally, when any sacrifice is performed, although each and every sacrifice is intended to pacify the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, all the demigods, especially Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva, and other principal demigods, such as Indra and Chandra, are invited, and they take part. It is said that unless all the demigods are present, no sacrifice is complete. But in the tension between the father-in-law and son-in-law, Daksha began another yajna performance, to which Lord Shiva was not invited. Daksha was the chief progenitor employed by Lord Brahma, and he was a son of Brahma, so he had a high position and was also very proud. Maitreya Uvacha Sada vid vishator evam kalovaidriyamanayo jamatu shvashurasyapi sumahan atichakrame. Maitreya continued, in this manner the tension between the father-in-law and son-in-law, Daksha and Lord Shiva, continued for a considerably long period. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharne Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasya Chadejatarne Sri Krishna Caitanya Prabhunichananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So the story goes on for a few till chapter 7. And so already the previous chapter, of course, chapter 2 was the beginning of the story, but there are different developments in the course of the sort of unfolding of this great event. And here there's a little shift in the line of the story, of course on the basis of the story as it's already been there, but it is a little shift, as Srila Prabhupada points out in the purport. So first thing was, what happened between Daksha and Lord Shiva? What was the cause of the extreme disturbance which developed within their relationship? Because otherwise, father-in-law, son-in-law, the father of the daughter and the husband of the daughter, certainly it is hoped, and in so many cases it's a nice relationship, and the son-in-law becomes accepted as a member of the family of his wife, and similarly his wife, the daughter-in-law of his parents, becomes accepted as a member of her husband's family. And in this way, usually, hopefully at least, but in so many cases, there is affection between these different personalities. And yes, and therefore the term is used, son. In law, by law, according to law, sort of that idea. But still, Lord Shiva is the son of Daksha in that sense. And so good relations should be there. But in this case, of course, as we know very well from the previous chapter, the relationship between Daksha and Lord Shiva, the father-in-law and his son-in-law, they have become just a complete disaster. It's just a really extremely unfortunate situation. So Srila Prabhupada, and this is, it's very, when some friction develops between two people, just two people, oftentimes the way it's expressed is that there was a misunderstanding. So in this case, Srila Prabhupada also uses this term. There was a misunderstanding. That's a way of putting it, you could say, but it's not just, particularly in this case, it's not just a matter that there was some misunderstanding, but Daksha's pride got sort of, you could say, attacked very strongly, in that his son-in-law, although being his son-in-law, was also his senior at the same time, and being one of the most important demigods in the whole universe, other than Lord Vishnu, who, we may technically sort of sometimes refer to as a demigod, but he's not, just a demigod. Lord Vishnu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And in terms of those who really are demigods, and they're really in that type of subservient position to the Lord, Lord Shiva's the highest. He's, even though he's the son of Lord Brahma, but generally speaking, he would be considered to be in a higher position than Lord Brahma, not really a lower position. So there you get another sort of intricacy. Brahma's the father, Shiva is the son, directly, in a sort of biological sense. But Lord Shiva is special. He is a type of form of Lord Vishnu himself. It's a little complex situation, but still it's like that. That's what's described in Brahma Samhita. There's the verse which explains how Lord Shiva is like yogurt. He can be considered, he is a type of form of Lord Vishnu himself, but very special in that he's a form of the Supreme Lord who has contacted the material nature, contacted in the sense of become influenced by, become affected by. Otherwise, of course, you can also say Lord Vishnu. He is contacting the material nature. He's in charge of the mode of goodness. The mode of goodness is certainly material, it's not spiritual. But Lord Vishnu himself is not at all affected by that contact, whereas Lord Shiva is actually affected. And so, as we mentioned there in Brahma Samhita, Lord Brahma gives the example to help us understand who is and what is Lord Shiva. He gives us the example of milk, which has contacted a souring agent and become yogurt. And yogurt, of course, it's milk. It's not something else like, some fruit juice or water is just something else. It's not really got a relationship with milk in that sense. But yogurt definitely does. Yogurt is simply milk, with the addition of the souring agent, of course. And so it's attained that position of being yogurt. And the difference is such, though, that first point, there is some souring. Milk is considered by nature sweet. All different foodstuffs and things are identified in the Vedic literatures in terms of different tastes: sweet, sour, astringent, particularly. Different tastes. So, and Amalaki. Amalaki is, Vedically it's accepted as being a combination of all the tastes. And I don't know if you've ever, it's a bit of a challenge actually, eating amalaki. But afterwards, you get a sweet taste in your mouth. And the sweet taste was there in the amalaki, but initially it was overpowered by the other tastes. Right, so, but now in this case, milk is sweet by nature. It's in the category of sweet foodstuffs. And indeed, for that matter, if milk is sort of processed or distilled in a certain way, you get lactose, which is a sugar. It's actually a sugar. And, just like in certain parts of the world, they make sugar from, in Ireland, what did they make sugar from? From spinach, I think. It's something like that. I forget the name. Anyone remember the name? There's a form of sugar. And when you're in Ireland and you get sugar, most of it is made from whatever it is. from, if I remember correctly, from spinach. And you wouldn't normally think of spinach as being particularly sweet. Spinach, right? What's it called? Sugar beet. Yeah, beet is a spinach. Yeah, it's a spinach. And they do that. And then there's fructose. Of course, fruits are generally recognized for being sweet. And in some places they extract the sugar, and it's called fructose. So milk is sweet, but now in this case, in the case of Lord Shiva, or when you make yogurt, there's contact with the souring agent, and it becomes yogurt. And the real difference between, one of the major differences between milk and sugar, milk and yogurt, is that you can make yogurt from milk, but you can't make milk from yogurt. It's permanent. It's fixed. So in this way, even though Lord Shiva is, milk, so to speak, he's a type of form of Lord Vishnu, but due to contact with the souring agent, he has become permanently situated in what is really a non-Vishnu condition. It's a very specific condition of his own, which he doesn't share with anyone. And that a soured condition. And what is that souring? What does it mean that he contacted a souring agent? It means he married Durga, and Durga is material. I mean, she's a spirit soul, of course, but in terms of her position in the universe, she's in a material type of condition. And whereas the wife of Lord Vishnu is Lakshmi, and she's completely spiritual. But Lord Shiva has been influenced by Durga, his wife, and she is the presiding deity of the material nature. So she really is empowered by the material nature. And he's become affected, at least to some degree. Still, he's the head of one of our sampradayas, and he's a pure devotee of the Lord. But sometimes the souring side of things shows through. An example is the pastime in it's the 9th canto, if I remember correctly. Lord Shiva and who was that demon who wanted to kill him? Vrikasura. Vrikasura flattered Lord Shiva. And therefore Lord Shiva, being influenced by that flattery, he gave Vrikasura a benediction which he should not have given him. And at the end of the whole pastime, when the Supreme Lord saves the life of Lord Shiva from the attack of Vrikasura, then the Lord tells him, don't give benedictions like that again. Just like he told Lord Brahma, who gave benedictions to Hiranyakashipu, don't give benedictions again. That sort of benediction again to that sort of person. So anyway, yes, so it's interesting sometimes in these pastimes of the Lord, you get these different sort of complex relationships that, like in this case, someone is, in a certain sense, on the level of the sun. In another sense, the same person, in relation to the same other person, is on the level of a senior. And therefore you've got to watch out. Because if you just, as Daksha was expecting, if you just expect to be treated in terms of the senior part, I mean, Daksha being senior and Shiva being junior as the son-in-law, if you just expect to be treated like that and you just overlook the other part, that Lord Shiva's senior, you could say in a much more important sense, as a pure devotee, as a demigod, the leader, one of the great leaders of the demigods, well, then problems may arise. So that's happened. That's happened in chapter 2, now in chapter 3, and Prabhupada explains that the story goes on the basis of a sort of one of the ramifications of this conflict or misunderstanding, strife. Prabhupada also uses the word strife, the sort of, I mean, it's like a fight in a sense between Daksha and Lord Shiva. And we read in chapter 2 how the first result of Daksha's becoming so disturbed was all this cursing and counter-cursing, which still is having its effects today. This point is made that the fact that Shivites, so many Shivites, are sort of in somewhat bewildered conditions. You know, they copy Lord Shiva by smoking ganja, and this is just nonsense. It's really just nonsense. So there's bewilderment there. And yes, like that. So that's happening on the basis of the curse of Brigu in the course of chapter 2. And the demigods, anyway, certain shortcomings are there amongst the demigods on the basis of the curse of Nandishvara. And we're talking about millions of years ago, many, many millions, but the effects are still being felt now. It's amazing, actually, the power of these people. It's truly amazing. But now it goes beyond just cursing and counter-cursing. There was no curse on Daksha that you are going to lose your daughter as a result. But that's the next, and it's a very, very major development in the story, that Sati, the daughter of Daksha and wife of Lord Shiva, that when the next stage of the whole thing develops, in that Daksha, he's going to have another big sacrifice, big sacrifice. And of course, as Prabhupada mentions in the purport, the demigods, they're invited. It's just the normal thing. But you could say pointedly, Daksha does not invite Lord Shiva. The sacrifice in chapter 2, Lord Shiva was invited and he was there. But now the relationship has deteriorated to the point, and even Daksha's consciousness has deteriorated to the point that he doesn't even invite him. And even though, as Prabhupada points out, and Shastra explains, all the demigods must be invited. If they're not all invited, the yajna cannot be complete. It is said that unless all the demigods are present, no sacrifice is complete. And surely Daksha is aware of this, because Daksha is a highly educated person. So, but it appears, it's not exactly stated here, but it appears that Daksha thinks that I am such a great person that if I hold a yajna to which all the demigods, according to Shastra, must be invited, but if I decide not to invite one of them, anyone, then because of my position and my power and my who I am, then the yajna will not be affected negatively by the absence of whoever. But actually, Daksha doesn't have that position. He can't assume that he can just neglect someone like Lord Shiva under these circumstances. So, as we'll see, and I'm sure so many of you, at least maybe all of you, are well aware, as the story, I mean, I don't want to give what they call a spoiler by telling you what happens, because, wow, it's really extreme. But Sati becomes so affected by her father's negativity towards her husband. Sati commits suicide, actually. And Daksha's so proud that he doesn't care, even though she is his daughter. And she, Daksha had many daughters who were all given to different great personalities to become their wives. But Sati was the greatest, and she was given to Lord Shiva, who was the greatest of the husbands of the daughters of Daksha. So it's really such a situation, as we've said on a number of occasions. There are real lessons to be learned here. Particularly, at least one particularly, is pride comes before a fall. Yes, pride. Even we mentioned actually on Saturday at the program that even amongst just the ordinary materialistic people, just the most ordinary materialistic people, this little saying, pride cometh before a fall, I would say probably everybody knows it. Everybody knows it. Just like everybody or so many people know that all the hustling to get money and to work and all of this, that they call it the rat race. I think everybody knows, but still they keep racing. And, in the future they would become rats, but except for the presence of the Krishna consciousness movement. But pride definitely comes before a fall. And Daksha, what a fall he's going to have, as was mentioned, as Bhrigu cursed. You'll get the head of a goat. And that would be permanent. What a reminder. Whenever you look in the mirror, if you got to go, make yourself presentable, and you look in the mirror, and how can you make a goat's head presentable? I will comb the hair in a certain way or something, whatever. Oh, it's just, what a blow. What a blow to his false ego, to his sense of importance. It's just such a devastating blow. And that's one of the main lessons to learn from here. And Lord Shiva has already taught a lesson, as we saw in the previous chapter, that when all this anger was flying back and forth and the cursing, he just got up and left. He didn't become implicated in it. That's such an important lesson. And Sati, she kills herself, basically. And, that's another lesson. Don't kill yourself. Yeah, don't kill yourself. Either actually or by doing some nonsense, kill your position in life. So, and an interesting point, this point of how Lord Shiva reacted is interesting. And here, the way Maitreya speaks, the tension between the father-in-law and son-in-law continued for a considerably long period. I was reading yesterday the purport of Srila Jiva Goswami to this verse, and he makes the point that actually Lord Shiva was not angry. Lord Shiva was not feeling tension as such. He was feeling regret and like sorrow, but he was not caught up in the tension. No, you treated me like this and you treated me like that. That's sort of the agitation. Daksha was highly agitated, and his followers were too. Pretty much. But Lord Shiva wasn't. And in fact, he advised and he actually instructed Sati that just relax. Just don't react in the way you're reacting. But Sati didn't listen. Anyway, that we'll find out maybe in this chapter or the next chapter, how the story evolves from here. But like everything in Srimad Bhagavatam, it's so instructive, such profound instruction on such important subject matters which people like us really need to learn from to become more qualified as devotees. Hare Krishna. Any comment or question? Yes.
Raj, could you speak a little on how we can sincerely develop humility by being in the association of devotees?
I'm sure you can answer that question, or anyone here can. Well, one thing I can say is, if you associate, whoever you associate with, whoever's association you accept, means, you hear from them and you learn from their practical example, then you'll pick up the qualities of those people. Yes. So if you associate with humble devotees, more advanced devotees, and part of that being more advanced is they're more humble, you'll pick that up from them, definitely. And you're a nice girl, but you are a newer devotee, and you're surrounded by, at least the majority of the devotees, I mean, a number of them are really a lot senior to you. And you can learn by hearing from them and watching their examples. We hope. I mean, no, you will, when they're doing nicely. But no, generally, I mean, everyone has their little ups and downs. But this is the principle, at least. Yeah. And that's so important. And if you hear from such devotees and observe their actions, which are displays of their consciousness, and just by that, you'll become influenced by them and influenced to become like them, and you'll become more humble. Otherwise, if you want to really get into humility and the different aspects, there's a seminar, actually we had a retreat for 3 or 4 days. It's just all day, every day, different aspects of humility and how to develop and so on. Yeah. One thing I could suggest is, as you observe the devotees, particularly those who are senior to you, you try to appreciate how they possess, how they demonstrate, exhibit different of the qualities of a devotee, the 26 qualities, and you'll see they do. And then rather than them just being sort of entities, but you'll see they're like complex, they have complex characters. And the complexity means in the sense that there are many characteristics. Yeah. And many of them are very good characteristics. And in this way, if you develop appreciation of the devotees in terms of real, actually seeing real things which are appreciable, that'll help you become humble and also develop those qualities. Is that okay?
Thank you, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Any words? Yes, please. On that topic, yes. Huh?
On that topic of humility.
Oh, yeah.
Like you were pointing out at the end, if you concentrate on the good qualities of the devotees, especially seeing how they have so much of that good qualities more than I do,
Sure.
than we have, automatically humility starts to manifest. Like I was listening to a class by Bhakti Swami the other day, and he was saying the best way to develop humility is more and more to realize the greatness of Krishna, and automatically you'll realize how insignificant you are.
Sure.
Similarly with the devotees, to see how great they are, their wonderful qualities, automatically we will see ourselves for who we are, and then naturally we'll act accordingly, we'll behave
Right.
accordingly.
See? It's an example of what I was saying.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
You go ahead.
My question is, Brahman background and Kshatriya background. Obviously, humility levels will differ vastly. So when you become devotees, what's your advice? How do you draw a line there?
Okay. First thing I'd say would be that, in I would say the great majority of cases overlook the so-called background because this is Kali Yuga, and even though someone, in terms of the ancestral background of the family, they may have been a Brahmin or Kshatriya or Sudra or whatever type of family, but the natural qualities of those Varnas have been lost because of Kali Yuga. And therefore, I told this story, I've told it a few times, of the taxi driver Panditji in Vrindavan. I tell you what, he's a Brijbasi. He's a transcendental Brijbasi Sudra. That's what he is, actually. And yeah, so we shouldn't worry too much about what is meant to be the background of a person, but rather what is the person in terms of their actual character. I mean, you get the so-called Maharaj families and etc. around Durban. But the great majority of them, they're just businessmen. That's what they actually are. The husband of one of my disciples is from a Maharaj. It's their family name. And I don't know if he's a school teacher or something, I think. But somehow he got stimulated to start doing yagyas and pujas for people, like when he was about 50 years old. But the problem is, or a problem, he's addicted to cigarettes. Seriously, I mean, he's actually addicted. We tried to get him off it so he could, because his wife's initiated, and she's nice, kind of sattvic type of person. But we tried to get him off cigarettes, we couldn't get him off. So he does his yagya, goes out the back and has a puff, and, cools down a bit. So, I mean, as preachers, we could possibly play on that and say, oh, you're from a Brahmin background. Well, then you can get into Krishna consciousness. But really, we have to be able to help people, because they all desperately need to be helped. We should try and understand in reality, what sort of person am I dealing with, and how can I help this person become Krishna conscious, and not like, oh, this person's from a Brahmin background, so therefore they're like this or that, or this person's from a Kshatriya background. I think, in terms of Kshatriya background, in terms of Brahmin background, it tends to come through more. But Kshatriya background, being a real warrior, I laughed. We were reading in Lilamrita last week. Prabhupada met the Maharaj of somewhere. Yeah, and the Maharaj showed Prabhupada around his place and showed him, I think, the head of a tiger. Yeah. Because Kshatriyas traditionally, like the young Kshatriya, young man, to prove himself that he's a real man, a real Kshatriya, he has to fight single-handedly with a tiger and kill the tiger himself. Meaning probably just with a knife, something like that. So Prabhupada asked the Maharaj, so, you killed him? And the man said, yes, I shot him. And I thought that was really quite funny. But Prabhupada responded, very good. Yeah. So to find real Kshatriyas, I mean even partial Kshatriyas, any family that has the surname Singh, it's a Kshatriya family. I tell you what, there's not many real Kshatriyas among them. But anyway, but if you can play on those things to help them inspire them to become devotees, go ahead. You're from a Brahmin background, very good. So, Krishna consciousness will be natural for you. Is that okay? Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.